Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the swirling colors of the wormhole fade behind them. The ship had just completed humanity's first journey through an artificial passage between stars. The crew worked quietly, at their stations, checking systems and scanning the unknown space around them. "Report," Jake said, his voice calm but alert. Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her science station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as data flowed across her screen. "We're in the Andromeda sector, Captain. The wormhole brought us exactly where we hoped. But I'm reading something incredible." Jake walked over to her station. "What do you see?" Lisa pointed at her display. "Massive energy readings, 12 light minutes away. The power output is beyond anything we've ever seen. It's artificial, Captain. We're looking at alien technology." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member stopped what they were doing and looked toward the main screen. Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. "Put it on screen," he ordered. The main display flickered and showed a structure that made everyone gasp. It was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. Metal and crystal surfaces reflected starlight in patterns that hurt to look at. Strange energy fields danced around it like living things. Communications Officer Pete Davis turned from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple signals from that structure. They're not random. These are organized transmissions." "Can you understand them?" Jake asked. Pete shook his head. "Not yet, but the computer is working on it. The patterns suggest intelligence. Definitely alien intelligence." Jake made his decision, quickly. "Take us closer, but keep our distance. Amy, bring the shields online as a safety measure." Chief Engineer Amy Parker nodded from her station. "Shields up, Captain. All systems running normal." As the Liberty moved closer to the massive structure, more details became visible. Smaller ships moved around it like insects around a hive. The alien vessels had sleek designs unlike anything humans had ever built. They seemed to flow through space rather than fly. "Captain," Pete said, excitement in his voice, "I'm getting something. The computer has found patterns in their signals. It's primitive, but I think I can send a basic message." "Do it," Jake ordered. "Send a peaceful greeting. Make it clear we come in friendship." Pete worked at his controls for several minutes. Then he looked up. "Message sent, Captain. Now we wait." They didn't wait long. The alien structure suddenly blazed with new lights. The smaller ships stopped their movements and turned toward the Liberty. Energy readings spiked across all sensors. "Captain," Lisa said, worry clear in her voice. "They're charging weapons. Massive energy buildup across their entire fleet." Jake felt ice in his stomach. "Pete, send another message. Tell them we're peaceful. We don't want to fight." "I'm trying, Captain, but they're not responding to our signals anymore." The alien ships began moving toward the Liberty. They moved fast, faster than any human ship could travel. Jake realized they had seconds to make a choice. "Amy, full power." "To shields," he ordered. "Prepare for defensive action." The moment Amy activated the shields at full power, the alien fleet opened fire. Beams of energy lanced through space toward the Liberty. The ship shook as the weapons hit their shields. "Shields holding," Amy reported. "But they won't last long against this firepower." "Return fire," Jake ordered. "Defensive shots only. Try not to hit their main structure." The Liberty's weapons fired back at the alien ships. The human weapons were weaker than the alien ones, but they found their targets. 2 alien ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. "Captain, we need to leave now." Lisa shouted over the noise of alarms. Our shields are failing and more ships are coming. Jake looked at the main screen. The alien fleet was growing larger by the minute. Ships poured out of the massive structure like angry wasps. The Liberty was completely outnumbered. Amy, prepare. For emergency jump, he ordered. Get us out of here. Jump drive charging, Captain. 30 seconds. The Liberty shook again as more alien weapons hit the shields. Sparks flew from damaged control panels. The lights flickered as power systems struggled to keep working. Shields at 20%, Amy called out. How long? Jake demanded. 10 seconds, Captain. The alien ships closed in around them. Jake could see their hulls clearly now, covered in strange markings and bristling with weapons. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jump. Drive ready, Amy announced. Jump, Jake ordered. Space twisted around the Liberty as the jump drive activated. The alien ships and the massive structure disappeared as the human vessel fled into hyperspace. But something went wrong. As the jump field formed, it interacted with the alien energy beams still hitting their shields. The result was a massive explosion of twisted space and time. The explosion reached out from where the Liberty had been and struck the alien structure. A section of the massive construct, covered in beautiful crystalline formations, simply vanished. It was gone as if it had never existed. The Liberty tumbled through hyperspace, badly damaged and systems failing. On the bridge, Jake and his crew struggled to understand what had happened. Damage report, Jake said when the ship finally stopped shaking. Lisa checked her instruments. Hull damage on 3 decks. Life support is stable, but the jump drive is badly damaged. We can travel, but it will take time to reach home. Amy looked up from her engineering station. Captain, I'm reading massive energy residue from our jump. Point. Something happened when we left. What kind of something? Jake asked. I think our jump drive interacted with their weapons. The energy feedback was enormous. If there was anything near our jump point when we left, Jake felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. You think we damaged their structure? I think we might have destroyed part of it, Captain. The bridge fell silent again. Jake realized that humanity's first contact with alien life had gone terribly wrong. They had come in peace, but they were leaving as apparent aggressors who had damaged an alien monument. Pete, keep monitoring for any signals from Earth, Jake ordered. We need to get home and report what happened. Amy, work on those repairs. We need to reach Earth as quickly as possible. As the Liberty limped through space toward home, Jake wondered what consequences would follow from this disastrous first meeting. He had no way of knowing that the alien structure they had damaged was a sacred monument, or that the aliens were already spreading word of humanity's apparent attack across their vast empire. The war that would soon engulf the galaxy had begun, with a misunderstanding, but that wouldn't make it any less deadly. Supreme Commander Zethkar stood before the ruined monument, his 4 arms crossed in the ancient gesture of mourning. The crystalline structure had stood for 3,000 years, a symbol of peace and unity among the hegemony worlds. Now half of it was simply gone, vaporized by the strange aliens who had attacked without warning. "Report!" Zethkar commanded, his voice echoing through his helmet's translator. Sub-Commander Veltar approached carefully. The hegemony's military hierarchy was strict, and disturbing a Supreme Commander during mourning was dangerous. "Sir, our analysis of the attack is complete. The alien vessel used an unknown form of space manipulation. Their weapons created a dimensional tear that erased matter at the quantum level." Zethkar turned his massive form toward the smaller officer. "They destroyed the monument of eternal peace with weapons that unmake reality itself. What manner of beings are we dealing with? Unknown, sir. The ship that attacked us was primitive in design, but their weapons technology is beyond our understanding. They appeared peaceful at first, but when we moved to investigate, they raised energy barriers and opened fire. The Supreme Commander walked closer to the ruined monument. Pieces of crystal that had once sung with harmonic energy now lay silent and dead. This was no accident, Veltar. They targeted our most sacred site deliberately. Send word to all hegemony worlds. Tell them that a new enemy has emerged, one that shows no respect for peace or sacred places. Yes, sir. What are your orders? Zethkar's eyes glowed with cold anger. Mobilize the fleet, all of it. These aliens have made their intentions clear. We will respond in kind. Light years away, the USS Liberty drifted through an asteroid field. Captain Jake Morrison paced the small bridge while his crew worked to repair their damaged systems. They had been hiding for 3 days, afraid that alien ships might follow them. Chief Engineer Amy Parker crawled out from under a damaged console, her uniform dirty and her face tired. Captain, I've got the life support systems working better, but the jump drive is still a mess. The quantum matrix got scrambled when we made that emergency jump. How long until we can get home? Jake asked. Amy wiped grease from her hands. At least a week, maybe 2. The containment field for the jump core needs to be completely rebuilt. I'm doing what I can with spare parts, but we're pushing our luck. Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her science station. Captain, I've been analyzing the sensor data from the encounter. I don't think those aliens were naturally aggressive. Their first response was to investigate us, not attack. Jake stopped pacing. What do you mean? Look at this, Lisa said, bringing up a holographic display. When we first appeared, they sent small ships to examine us. Their movements were curious, not hostile. It wasn't until we raised shields that they began charging weapons. Communications Officer Pete Davis joined the conversation. I've been going through their signals, too. The computer has learned more of their language patterns. Captain, I think they might have seen our shields as a threat. But shields are defensive, Jake protested. To us, yes, Lisa replied. But to them, our shield activation might have looked like preparation for attack. Different species, different interpretations. Jake felt sick. So we started the fight? Maybe, Pete said carefully. But Captain, there's something else. I've been monitoring alien communications since we escaped. They're talking about us, and it's not good. The translation is rough, but they're calling us reality destroyers and monument killers. Amy looked up from her repairs. Monument killers? What monument? Lisa checked her readings again. That section of their structure that got destroyed when we jumped. I think it might have been important to them. Really important. The bridge fell silent as the crew realized what had happened. Their emergency escape had accidentally destroyed something valuable to the aliens. Jake slumped into his captain's chair. So we accidentally started a war with aliens who think we're monsters, he said quietly. It gets worse, Captain, Pete continued. They're sending messages to other alien species. From what I can understand, they're building an alliance against us. They're telling everyone that humans are dangerous and need to be stopped. Across the galaxy, the message was spreading. On the water world of Aquatica, the dolphin-like Zentari received the hegemony's warning with concern. They were peaceful traders who had never seen war, but the description of the human attack frightened them. On the desert planet Korriban, the warrior race called the Corvin heard the news with interest. They respected strength, but attacking Monuments seemed dishonorable. In the great council chambers of the hegemony capital, Supreme Commander Zethkar addressed representatives from dozens of alien species. The chamber was filled with beings of every shape and size, from gas-floating creatures to crystalline entities that communicated through light patterns. "Fellow citizens of the galaxy," Zethkar began, his words translated into hundreds of languages. "Today we face a threat unlike any we have known. A species has emerged that wages war against peace itself. They destroy our monuments, mock our sacred places, and show no honor in battle." A representative from the insect-like hive worlds clicked nervously. "What proof do we have of their intentions, Supreme Commander?" Zethkar activated a holographic display showing the ruined monument. This was the Monument of Eternal Peace, built to celebrate the end of the last Great War. These humans targeted it specifically, using weapons that erase matter from existence. They could have fired on our ships, our stations, our people. Instead, they chose to destroy our symbol of peace. The chamber filled with angry sounds from dozens of different species. The Zentari representative made worried clicking noises. The Corvan delegate growled low and threatening. Even the peaceful plant beings from the forest worlds rustled their leaves in distress. "What do you propose?" asked the hive representative. "Total mobilization," Zethkar declared. "We must find these humans before they can attack again. We must show them that the galaxy will not tolerate their aggression. We must prepare for war." Meanwhile, on the Liberty, Amy finally got their communication system working well enough to send a message toward Earth. The signal would take days to reach home, but at least they could warn Earth about what was coming. Jake recorded the message himself, trying to stay calm despite the fear in his stomach. "Earth Command. This is Captain Morrison of the USS Liberty. We have made first contact with alien life, but the situation has gone badly wrong. We accidentally damaged what appears to be a sacred site during our escape from a hostile encounter. The aliens believe we attacked them deliberately. They are mobilizing for war and contacting other species to join them. We are returning home with all possible speed, but our jump drive is damaged. Estimate arrival in 10 to 14 days. Earth needs to prepare for the possibility of alien attack." As the message traveled toward Earth at the speed of light, the galaxy was already changing. Alien fleets began moving toward the edges of human space. Ancient alliances were activated. Weapons that had not been used for centuries were brought out of storage. The USS Liberty continued its long journey home, carrying a crew that had accidentally started the first interstellar war in galactic history. Jake looked out at the stars and wondered if there was any way to fix what had gone wrong. Behind them, invisible but approaching, the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen was gathering to destroy humanity before they could threaten anyone else. The war was coming, and Earth had no idea what was heading their way. Admiral Ben Clark sat in his office at Earth Defense Command, reading the same message for the third time. Captain Morrison's transmission had arrived 2 hours ago, and Ben still couldn't believe what it said. Humanity's first contact with alien life had gone terribly wrong, and now an entire galaxy might be preparing for war against Earth. The door to his office opened, and President Helen Wade walked in with her security detail. Ben stood up quickly and saluted. The president looked tired and worried. "Admiral, I've read Morrison's message," she said, sitting down across from his desk. "Tell me this is some kind of mistake." Ben shook his head. "I've had our best people analyze the transmission. It's real, Madam President. The USS Liberty encountered aliens, accidentally damaged something important to them, and now they think we're aggressors." President Wade rubbed her temples. How long until the Liberty gets home? 8 to 10 days, assuming their repairs hold. Together. But, Madam President, if Morrison is right about the aliens mobilizing, we might not have that long. What do you mean? Ben activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. If these aliens have faster-than-light travel and they're as advanced as Morrison suggests, they could reach Earth much sooner than the Liberty. We need to assume they're already on their way. President Wade stared at the display. What are our options? Limited, Ben admitted. We have the defense fleet around Earth, but it's designed to handle asteroids and space debris, not alien warships. Our most advanced weapons are the particle beam platforms, and those are untested against alien technology. The door opened again, and Military Commander Steve Rogers entered. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. Madam President, Admiral Clark, I've been reviewing our defense capabilities. We're not ready for this. Explain, President Wade ordered. Steve activated his own display. Our entire defense strategy is based on fighting other humans. Chemical rockets, kinetic weapons, basics, energy shields. If these aliens have technology advanced enough to build monument-sized structures in space, our weapons might not even scratch their ships. Ben nodded grimly. Steve's right. Morrison's report mentions alien weapons that can erase matter from existence. We don't even know what that means, let alone how to defend against it. President Wade stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth's capital city. Millions of people went about their daily lives, completely unaware that their planet might soon be under attack by aliens. What about diplomacy? She asked. Maybe we can explain what really happened. I've already had Dr. Grant's team working on that, Ben replied, but the language barrier is enormous. Morrison's communication officer made some progress, but basic contact is different from complex diplomatic discussions. And, Madam President, there's another problem. What? Morrison mentioned that the aliens are contacting other species, building an alliance against us. Even if we could talk to them, they've already painted us as monsters to their friends. Steve pulled up another display. I've been thinking about our response options. We could try to evacuate Earth, but we don't have enough ships to move even. 1 million people. We could surrender immediately when they arrive, but there's no guarantee they'll accept it. Or we can prepare to fight. Fight? President Wade turned from the window. Against an alien alliance with technology centuries ahead of ours? Sometimes the only choice is to fight, even when you can't win, Steve said quietly. At least we can make them respect us. Ben had been thinking about the same problem. Actually, Madam President, Morrison's report gives me some hope. The Liberty survived the encounter and escaped. That means alien technology isn't perfect. They can be surprised, and they can make mistakes. Go on. Morrison said the aliens moved to investigate first, then charged weapons when the Liberty raised shields. That suggests they're cautious, maybe even afraid of the unknown. They have superior technology, but they don't understand human technology either. President Wade sat back down. So, what do you recommend? Ben and Steve looked at each other. They had discussed this on the way to the president's office. 2 approaches, Ben said. First, we prepare for war. Every ship we have gets fitted with the best weapons and shields we can build. We turn our lunar mining stations into weapon platforms. We prepare every colony to defend itself. And second, President Wade asked, we send a diplomatic mission, Steve added. Not to the aliens who attacked Morrison, but to the neutral species Morrison mentioned. If we can explain our side of the story to someone willing to listen, maybe we can prevent this from becoming a galaxy-wide war. President Wade considered this. Who would lead such a mission? Ambassador Carol Turner, Ben replied immediately. She's our best diplomat, and she's not afraid of taking risks. We could give her one of our fastest ships and send her toward the alien territories. What about a military escort? Steve shook his head. That might look aggressive. Better to send her alone with clear, peaceful intentions. The president stood up again. All right. Ben, start preparing our defenses. I want every available ship armed and ready. Steve, begin evacuation plans for our outer colonies just in case, and get Ambassador Turner ready for the most important diplomatic mission in human history. As the two military leaders prepared to leave, President Wade stopped them. Gentlemen, how long do you think we have? Ben looked at the star charts again. If the aliens have ships as fast as Morrison suggests, maybe a week, maybe less. After they left, President Wade sat alone in her office, looking out at the peaceful city below. She activated her communication system and called for an emergency session of the World Council. In a few hours, she would have to tell the leaders of every nation on Earth that their planet was about to be attacked by aliens. Meanwhile, in deep space, the first alien scout ships had already reached the edges of human territory. They found the outer research stations easily, observing them from a distance. The humans seemed to have spread to several star systems, building mining stations and small colonies. The alien commander of the scout fleet, Sub-Commander Veltar, transmitted his findings back to the main hegemony force. Supreme Commander, the humans have established settlements in 12 systems. Their technology appears primitive, but their expansion rate is concerning. They have spread far for such a young species. Supreme Commander Zethkar received the message on his flagship, leading the largest fleet in hegemony history toward human space. How many humans are there? Difficult to estimate, sir. Perhaps billions, spread across multiple worlds. Their main planet appears to be heavily populated. Zethkar considered this information. The humans were more numerous than expected, but numbers meant nothing against superior technology. Continue monitoring. Do not let them detect you. We will arrive in 5 days. Back on Earth, the emergency session of the World Council had begun. President Wade stood before representatives from every nation, about to deliver the most shocking news in human history. Fellow leaders, she began, 3 hours ago, we received a transmission from our deep space exploration vessel, the USS Liberty. I must inform you that humanity has made first contact with alien life, and we are now facing the possibility of interstellar war. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices and demands for explanation. President Wade waited for quiet, then continued. The contact was accidental and went badly wrong due to misunderstandings. The aliens believe we attacked them deliberately. They are mobilizing their allies for war against Earth. We have perhaps a week to prepare. The questions came fast and angry. How could this happen? Why weren't they warned? What could Earth do against aliens? President Wade answered as best she could, but the truth was simple and terrifying. Humanity had accidentally started a war with aliens, and now they had to find a way to survive it. Time was running out. Ambassador Carol Turner stood in the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel New Hope, watching the alien station grow larger ahead of them. The structure was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, with flowing curves that seemed to bend. Space around them. Captain Rick Hunter joined her at the viewing window. First time seeing alien architecture up close, Rick said quietly. Makes you feel small, doesn't it? Carol nodded. She had spent her entire career negotiating with world leaders, but nothing had prepared her for this. The weight of representing all humanity pressed down on her shoulders like a physical force. "Any word from the Liberty?" she asked. "They're still 2 days out from Earth," Rick replied. "We're on our own here, Ambassador." The New Hope approached the neutral station slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions on every frequency they could manage. The station was enormous, easily the size of a city. Ships from a dozen different alien species docked at various ports around its circumference. "Captain Hunter to the bridge," came the announcement over the ship's communication system. "We're receiving docking instructions." Rick headed for the bridge while Carol remained at the window. She reviewed her briefing materials one more time, the few words and phrases that Captain Morrison's crew had managed to translate. Basic diplomatic protocols that might work with alien minds. The careful explanation of what had really happened during the first contact disaster. 20 minutes later, the New Hope was docked at the station. Carol gathered her small diplomatic team and prepared to meet with representatives of the hegemony. She wore her formal diplomatic uniform and carried a translation device that might help with basic communication. The airlock opened onto a corridor that curved in impossible ways. The gravity felt strange, as if it pulled from multiple directions at once. Alien beings moved through the halls, some walking, others floating, and a few that seemed to exist as organized clouds of gas. Their escort was a tall, four-armed being with blue-gray skin and glowing eyes. It spoke through a translation device that made its words sound mechanical and cold. "I am Sub-Commander Veltar of the Hegemony Defense Force. You will follow me to the meeting chamber. Do not touch anything. Do not speak to other beings. Do not deviate from the path." Carol wanted to ask questions, but the alien's tone suggested that conversation was not welcome. They walked through corridors filled with alien technology and art that hurt to look at directly. The translation device whispered constant warnings about radiation and atmosphere differences. The meeting chamber was a circular room with a high ceiling covered in moving patterns of light. Representatives from several alien species were already present, arranged in a complex hierarchy that Carol couldn't understand. At the center sat a massive being that could only be Supreme Commander Zethkar. "You are the human ambassador," Zethkar stated. It wasn't a question. His voice through the translator sounded like distant thunder. "I am Ambassador Carol Turner, representing the United Earth Government," Carol replied. "I come seeking peace and understanding." Several alien beings made sounds that the translator couldn't interpret. Carol realized she had already made some kind of mistake, but she didn't know what. "You come seeking to avoid the consequences of your actions," Zethkar corrected. "Your species destroyed the Monument of Eternal Peace. Your ships attacked our vessels without provocation. Now you wish to talk your way out of justice." Carol stepped forward carefully. "Supreme Commander, I believe there has been a terrible misunderstanding. Our ship, the USS Liberty, never intended to attack anyone or destroy anything. They were on a peaceful exploration mission." "Peaceful?" One of the smaller aliens, a reptilian being with scales that changed color, hissed the word. "They raised war shields and fired weapons the moment they detected our presence." "Our shields are defensive technology," Carol explained. "Captain Morrison raised them as a safety precaution when approaching unknown vessels. It's standard procedure for us." The room fell silent for a moment. Then Zethkar leaned forward. "You admit that your captain prepared for war before even attempting communication." Carol realized she was walking into a trap, but she had to try to explain. "Not for war, for defense. We didn't know your intentions. And you assumed they were Hostile, the reptilian alien added. This proves the aggressive nature of your species. No, that's not, Carol started. But Zethkar raised one of his 4 hands for silence. The destruction of the monument was no accident, he declared. Your ship used weapons that unmake reality itself. Such weapons cannot be created by accident. They can only be built by a species that wishes to destroy. Carol felt desperation rising in her chest. Every word she spoke seemed to make things worse. Our jump drive technology had an unexpected interaction with your weapons. It was a complete accident. We had no idea there was a monument there. You claim ignorance of our most sacred site? The color-changing alien's scales flashed angry red. The monument of eternal peace has stood for 3,000 years. It is visible from 12 star systems. Only a species determined to commit sacrilege would claim not to see it. Carol looked around the room at the alien faces staring at her. Some showed clear anger, others seemed confused, but none looked sympathetic. She tried a different approach. If our species were truly aggressive, she said carefully, why would we send a single diplomatic ship to meet with you? Why would we come unarmed and alone to seek peace? Zethkar made a sound that might have been laughter. Because your single ship was defeated. Because you know we are stronger. You come not from a position of peace, but from fear. We come from a position of honesty, Carol insisted. We want to correct this misunderstanding before it leads to unnecessary conflict. The conflict is already decided, Zethkar replied. Your species has shown its true nature. The galaxy will not permit the existence of monument destroyers. Carol felt the situation slipping away completely. In desperation, she tried one last approach. Then let us prove our peaceful intentions. Allow us to rebuild the monument. Let our scientists work with yours to repair the damage. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Every alien in the room made sounds of outrage. The translator overloaded, trying to convert all the angry voices at once. Zethkar rose to his full height, towering over the small human diplomat. You dare suggest rebuilding what you destroyed? He roared. You offer to touch our sacred places with the same hands that unmade them? This is beyond insult. This is spiritual warfare. Carol realized she had made a catastrophic error. In human culture, offering to repair damage was a sign of good faith. To these aliens, it was apparently the worst possible insult. Sub-Commander Veltar stepped forward. The human ambassador will leave now, he announced. The hegemony has heard enough. Please, Carol said desperately. Give us a chance to explain. Our species made an honest mistake. Your species made a choice, Zethkar declared. Now you will face the consequences. You have 3 standard days to withdraw all human presence from space beyond your home system. After that, the hegemony will consider all human vessels to be hostile targets. 3 days? Carol couldn't hide her shock. That's impossible. We have colonies, research stations, mining operations. Then you should have considered that before attacking our monument, the reptilian alien hissed. 3 days? Or we will remove you ourselves. Carol was escorted from the chamber in silence. The walk back to the New Hope felt like a funeral march. Captain Rick Hunter met her at the airlock, taking one look at her face and understanding immediately. That bad? He asked quietly. Worse, Carol replied. They've given us 3 days to abandon all our colonies or they'll start shooting. And, Rick? They're not going to change their minds. We accidentally pushed every wrong button they have. As the New Hope undocked from the station and began its journey back toward Earth, Carol sat in her quarters writing her report. She had failed. completely. Instead of preventing war, she had probably made it inevitable. Behind them, on the station, Supreme Commander Zethkar was addressing his allies. "The humans have confirmed their aggressive intentions," he declared. "They offer to rebuild our monument with their own hands, showing complete disregard for its sacred nature. They refuse to accept responsibility for their attack. War is now unavoidable." The Alien Alliance agreed unanimously. Fleets that had been mobilizing for days received new orders. The attack on human space would begin in exactly 3 days. Carol's diplomatic mission had been humanity's last hope for peace. Now, as the New Hope raced toward Earth with news of the ultimatum, both sides prepared for a war that nobody wanted, but nobody could stop. The galaxy was about to discover what humans were truly capable of when their backs were against the wall. The attack came exactly 3 days after the ultimatum expired. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the newly upgraded USS Liberty, watching the massive alien fleet emerge from hyperspace near New Terra Colony. The sight made his blood run cold. "Count them," he ordered his crew. Dr. Lisa Grant worked frantically at her sensor station. 200 ships, Captain. Maybe more. They're using formation patterns I've never seen before." Jake activated the fleet communication channel. "All ships, this is Liberty Actual. The alien fleet has arrived. Remember your training. Stay close to the asteroid field and use the terrain to your advantage." Commander Kate Sullivan's voice crackled through the speakers from her ship, the Defiant. "Copy that, Liberty. My people are ready. Let's show these aliens what humans can do." The human defense fleet was pathetically small compared to the alien armada. 12 ships total, including converted mining vessels and cargo haulers fitted with whatever weapons Earth could spare. The Liberty herself had been rushed through upgrades, but she was still the same exploration vessel that had started this war by accident. "Captain," Communications Officer Pete Davis reported, "the alien commander is broadcasting on all frequencies. The translation computer is working on it." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The bridge speakers filled with the mechanical voice of the translator. "Human vessels, you are in violation of hegemony space. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. This is your only warning." Jake picked up the microphone. He had practiced this speech for days, knowing this moment would come. "Alien Commander, this is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. This is human colony space. We will not abandon our people. If you want to fight, you'll get one." The alien response was immediate. The massive fleet began moving toward New Terra, their ships flowing through space like a school of deadly fish. They moved faster than any human ship could travel, but they seemed cautious, unsure of what Earth's defenses might be hiding. "All ships, execute Plan Delta," Jake commanded. The human fleet scattered in all directions, disappearing into the asteroid field that surrounded New Terra. It looked like a retreat, and the aliens accelerated toward the defenseless colony. That's when the trap was sprung. "Fire!" Kate Sullivan shouted from her position, hidden behind a large asteroid. The Defiant emerged from cover, all weapons blazing. Human particle beams and missile salvos struck the lead alien ships before they could react. 2 alien vessels exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The alien fleet reacted quickly, turning to face this new threat, but the humans were already moving. Jake brought the Liberty around the far side of the asteroid field, opening fire on the alien rear guard. "Lisa, how are we doing?" he called out as the ship shook from return fire. "Their shields are strong, but not perfect," Lisa reported. "Our weapons are getting through, just not as efficiently as we'd like. But, Captain, look at this." She transferred her readings to the main screen. They're not used to fighting in asteroid fields. Their big ships can't maneuver like ours can. Jake grinned fiercely. Earth's military planners had guessed right. The aliens had superior technology, but they were used to fighting in open space, ship against ship. The humans were using every dirty trick they could think of. "Pete, signal the mining platforms," Jake ordered, hidden throughout the asteroid. Field were automated mining platforms that had been converted into weapon platforms. At Pete's signal, they all activated at once, firing on the alien ships from every direction. The alien commander, Sub-Commander Veltar, found himself fighting an enemy that refused to behave like a proper military force. The humans used asteroids for cover, struck from multiple directions, and disappeared before his ships could respond effectively. "Status report," he demanded from his bridge crew. "7 ships damaged, 2 destroyed," his tactical officer reported. "The humans are using hit-and-run tactics. They won't stand and fight." Veltar was frustrated. This wasn't how space battles were supposed to work. Fleets met in open space, exchanged fire, and the stronger force won. These humans fought like pirates. "All ships spread out," he ordered. "Use wide formation. Deny them hiding places." But the moment his fleet spread out, the humans changed tactics again. Commander Sullivan led 3 ships in a direct assault on the alien left flank, concentrating all their firepower on a single enemy vessel. The alien ship's shields failed under the focused attack, and it exploded in a cascade of secondary detonations. "How are they coordinating these attacks?" Veltar demanded. "Their communication technology is primitive." His communication officer checked the readings. "Sir, they're using very short-range, high-frequency bursts, almost impossible to detect or jam at this distance." On the Liberty, Jake was learning lessons that would change space warfare forever. "Amy, how are our weapons holding up?" Chief Engineer Amy Parker checked her readings. "Power levels stable, Captain, but I've been analyzing their ship designs while we fight. I think I see a weakness." "Tell me." "Their hulls are designed for energy weapons, not physical impacts. What if we loaded some cargo containers with metal debris and launched them at high speed?" Jake thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. "Do it. Use everything we've got." 10 minutes later, the aliens learned about human improvisation the hard way. Cargo containers filled with scrap metal and old mining equipment slammed into their ships at tremendous speeds. The kinetic impacts bypassed their energy shields completely, punching holes in hulls designed to stop particle beams. "Impossible!" Veltar exclaimed as another of his ships was crippled by what appeared to be flying garbage. "They're using debris as weapons!" Dr. Grant had been monitoring alien communications, and she was learning their tactical patterns. "Captain, I think they're getting frustrated. Their formation is becoming less organized." Jake looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet was still much larger than the human force, but they had lost the initiative. Every time they tried a new approach, the humans adapted faster than they could react. "All ships, this is Morrison," he broadcast to the human fleet. "They're getting angry and making mistakes. Stay flexible, keep hitting them from unexpected angles." The battle continued for 3 hours. The aliens had expected to overwhelm the primitive human ships in minutes, but instead found themselves fighting a guerrilla war in space. Every asteroid could hide an enemy ship. Every piece of debris could be a weapon. Commander Sullivan's voice came through the communication channel, strain clear in her voice. "Jake, we're taking heavy damage. The Miller's Luck is dead in space, and the Prospector is barely holding together." Jake looked at his own damage reports. The Liberty had taken several hits and they were down to 60% power. But the aliens were hurting too. "Lisa, count their ships," he ordered. 43 destroyed or disabled, she reported. "But Captain, more are coming. I'm reading another wave approaching from hyperspace." Jake felt his heart sink, but then he noticed something on the sensor display. Wait, those aren't alien ships. The energy signatures are different. The new arrivals were indeed different. Sleek vessels that moved with a grace unlike the hegemony ships. They approached the battlefield cautiously, not firing on anyone. Pete worked frantically with the translation computer. "Captain, I'm getting a signal. It's not hegemony language, it's something else." The message, when it finally came through, changed everything. "Human vessels. This is War Chief Bractor of the Corvan Defense Force. We have come to observe this battle. Your tactics interest us. We propose a temporary ceasefire to discuss terms." Jake looked around his bridge at his tired crew. They had survived the first alien attack, but barely. If more enemies were coming, they needed all the help they could get. "This is Captain Morrison," he replied. "We accept your proposal for ceasefire." The immediate battle was over, but Jake knew it was only the beginning. The aliens had learned that humans could fight, and the humans had learned that they could win. But the galaxy was vast, and the hegemony had many more ships where these came from. As the smoke cleared around New Terra, both sides counted their losses and prepared for the longer war that was sure to come. The humans had proven they wouldn't go quietly into extinction, and that changed everything. The meeting took place on a small asteroid between the human and alien fleets. Captain Jake Morrison walked carefully through the airlock into a hastily constructed meeting chamber where he came face to face with his first non-hostile alien. War Chief. Bractor was massive, even larger than the hegemony commander they had been fighting. His skin was covered in thick metallic scales, and his eyes glowed with an inner fire. But when he spoke, his voice carried respect rather than threat. "Captain Morrison," Bractor said through his translator, "your warriors fight with honor, even when outnumbered. This impresses the Corvan." Jake wasn't sure how to respond. "Thank you, War Chief. We fight to protect our people." "As all honorable species should," Bractor agreed. "But tell me, why does the hegemony call you monument destroyers? What did your people actually do?" For the next hour, Jake explained the real story of humanity's first contact disaster. He told Bractor about the accidental destruction of the alien monument, the failed diplomatic mission, and the ultimatum that had led to war. Bractor listened carefully, occasionally asking questions that showed he understood military tactics. When Jake finished, the massive alien was quiet for several minutes. "The hegemony told us you attacked without provocation," Bractor finally said. "They said you targeted their sacred sites deliberately, but your story suggests otherwise." "It's the truth," Jake insisted. "We never wanted this war." "Perhaps," Bractor said. "But wanting war and being good at it are different things. Your tactics today were creative. The Corvan respect creativity in battle." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Chief Engineer Amy Parker was working with a very different kind of alien. The trading vessel had approached Earth quietly, broadcasting peaceful intentions on frequencies that human radio telescopes barely detected. Dr. Melandra was nothing like the warrior aliens humanity had been fighting. She was small, with blue-green skin and large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Her ship was filled with scientific equipment instead of weapons. "Your technology is fascinating," Melandra said, as Amy showed her through Earth's primary. research facility. Primitive in some ways, but elegant in others. You solve problems differently than other species. Amy was equally fascinated by the alien scientist. How do you make your ships move so smoothly? Our vessels feel clunky compared to yours. Gravitic manipulation, Melandra explained. But your kinetic weapons are more effective than our energy systems in some situations. We saw the battle reports from New Terra. Using debris as weapons was inspired. Desperate, Amy corrected. We used what we had. The best engineering often comes from desperation, Melandra agreed. Captain Parker, may I ask you something? It's chief engineer, but sure. Why did your people really go to the monument sector? The hegemony claims it was a planned attack, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Amy pulled up the mission records from the USS Liberty. Pure exploration. We'd never seen aliens before. When we detected that massive energy signature, we had to investigate. It's human nature. Melandra studied the data carefully. Your ship's course was random, not targeted. Your weapons were not charged until after the hegemony ships approached. This supports your story of accidental contact. You believe us? The alien scientist made a sound that might have been a sigh. I have studied many species, Chief Engineer Parker. Aggressive races do not send single ships to explore unknown space. They send fleets. The hegemony has misread your intentions. Captain Rick Hunter was having his own encounter with potential allies on the edge of human space. His ship, the New Hope, had been intercepted by a vessel that seemed to be made of living crystal. The beings inside communicated through patterns of light that were beautiful and complex. Through a combination of translation software and careful patience, Rick was learning about the Zentari. They were an ancient race of traders and scholars who had grown tired of the hegemony's aggressive expansion policies. The hegemony seeks to control all trade routes. The Zentari representative, known only as First Light, explained through flashing patterns. They tax our ships, restrict our movements, and demand tribute for protection we do not need. But you're part of their alliance, Rick pointed out. By force, not choice, First Light replied, the crystal patterns shifting to sad blue tones. Many species join the hegemony to avoid being conquered by them. It is not willing cooperation. This was news that Earth needed to hear. Rick activated his recorder. Are there other species that feel the same way? Many, First Light confirmed. The hegemony rules through fear and superior technology, but they are not loved. Your people's resistance gives others hope. Back on the asteroid meeting ground, War Chief Bractor was explaining Corvan philosophy to Jake Morrison. The Corvan value strength, but also honor. The hegemony has strength but little honor. They attack the weak and call it justice. Then, why do you fight with them? Jake asked. Bractor's translator conveyed what might have been bitter laughter. Because the alternative was extinction. The hegemony offered us a choice. Join them or be destroyed. We chose survival. But you don't have to keep fighting for them, Jake suggested. You could join us instead. Against the entire hegemony? Bractor shook his massive head. Your people are brave, Captain, but brave and foolish often look the same from a distance, Jake. Thought about the thousands of hegemony ships that were probably already heading toward human space. Maybe we are being foolish, but we won't surrender our freedom without a fight. That attitude, Bractor said slowly, is why some of my warriors speak of changing sides. The Corvan were once free. We remember what that felt like. Dr. Melandra was sharing similar thoughts with Amy Parker back on Earth. The Zentari once traded freely throughout the galaxy, she explained. Now we must ask permission to visit our own trading partners. The hegemony controls everything. So help us change that, Amy suggested. Your technology combined with our tactics could make a real difference. And risk the destruction of my entire species? Melandra asked. The hegemony does not forgive. Rebellion. Amy leaned forward. But if we could win? If we could actually defeat them? Melandra was quiet for a long time. It has been 300 years since anyone successfully resisted the hegemony. Most species have forgotten that resistance is possible. We're reminding them, Amy said confidently. The secret meetings continued for days. Captain Hunter learned about trade routes that the hegemony used to move their fleets. Dr. Melandra shared technical information about alien shield frequencies. War Chief Bractor provided intelligence about hegemony military doctrine. But the most important discovery came from Communications Officer Pete Davis, who had been analyzing alien transmissions from across the galaxy. He burst into Admiral Clark's office on Earth with excitement written all over his face. Admiral, I've been monitoring hegemony communications, Pete reported. They're having problems. Several species are asking questions about the war with humanity. Some are demanding to know why they're fighting people who claim the contact was accidental. Admiral Clark looked up from his battle plans. Go on. The hegemony is having to use more and more resources just to keep their own alliance together. And, sir, there are reports of supply convoys being attacked by unknown ships. I think some species are already rebelling. This changed everything. Earth wasn't facing a united galactic empire. They were facing a coalition held together by fear and force, and that coalition was starting to crack. Clark activated his communication system. Get me President Wade, Ambassador Turner, and all fleet commanders. If the hegemony alliance is weakening, we need to exploit that weakness. Meanwhile, on the asteroid meeting ground, War Chief Bractor made a decision that would change the course of the war. Captain Morrison, the Corvin have decided. We will fight beside humanity, not against it. What changed your mind? Jake asked. Bractor's translator conveyed something that sounded almost like a growl of satisfaction. You remind us of what we used to be. Free warriors fighting for what we believe in. The Corvin have been slaves long enough. Similar decisions were being made across the galaxy. The Zentari began secretly providing intelligence to human forces. Several minor species stopped sending ships to hegemony fleets. Trade convoys started disappearing, their cargo ending up in rebel hands. The war was changing. What had started as the galaxy versus humanity was becoming something much more complex. The hegemony's own oppressive policies had created the seeds of their destruction, and humanity's desperate resistance was showing other species that the mighty hegemony could be beaten. Supreme Commander Zeth Carr received reports of the growing unrest with increasing fury. The simple war against the Monument Destroyers was becoming a galaxy-wide rebellion. Something had to be done quickly before the entire hegemony structure collapsed. He made a decision that would either end the war quickly or escalate it beyond anyone's control. The full might of the hegemony would fall on Earth itself. If humanity was destroyed completely, the other species would remember the price of rebellion. The battle for Earth was about to begin. Admiral Ben Clark stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, watching display screens that showed the largest space battle in galactic history unfolding above his planet. The hegemony had come with everything they had, but they were no longer fighting humanity alone. Fleet status report, he ordered. Commander Kate Sullivan's voice crackled through the speakers from her position in orbit. Earth Defense Fleet is holding position around the moon. Corvin Warfleet Alpha is engaging the enemy's left flank. Zentari technical support ships are providing electronic countermeasures from the asteroid belt. Ben looked at the tactical display with amazement. 3 months ago, humanity had been alone against the galaxy. Now they were leading a rebellion that included dozens of species who had grown tired of hegemony oppression. What about Morrison's strike force? Liberty Strike Group is approaching the hegemony command ship, Kate reported. They're using the new Zentari stealth technology. So far, undetected. Captain Jake Morrison crouched on the bridge of the USS Liberty as his ship ghosted through the massive hegemony fleet. The Zentari modifications to their hull made them nearly invisible to alien sensors, but they had to move slowly and carefully. Distance to target? He whispered to Dr. Lisa Grant. 5,000 kilometers and closing, Lisa replied softly. Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups on that ship. I think it's some kind of superweapon. Jake studied the enemy command vessel through the view screen. It was enormous, easily the size of a small moon, and bristling with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. But Chief Engineer Amy Parker had found its weakness. Amy, are you ready? Jake asked. Amy looked up from her improvised control panel, where she had connected Zentari computer systems to human weapons in ways that should have been impossible. The quantum resonance torpedo is armed and ready, but Captain, we only get one shot at this. One shot is all we need, Jake replied grimly. The plan was complex and dangerous. Amy had taken a standard human torpedo and modified it with Zentari quantum technology and Corvin energy amplifiers. Instead of exploding on impact, it would phase through the enemy ship's shields and detonate inside their main power core. Target acquired, Lisa announced. Firing solution locked in. Fire, Jake ordered. The modified torpedo launched silently from the Liberty's tube, invisible to hegemony sensors as it crossed the space between ships. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive command vessel began to glow from the inside. Supreme Commander Zethkar felt his flagship shudder around him as power systems failed throughout the ship. "Damage report!" he roared. "Impossible energy cascade in the main reactor," his chief engineer reported. "Sir, the humans have somehow weaponized quantum physics. The ship is losing power on all decks." "How?" Zethkar demanded. "Human technology is primitive." "Not anymore," came a new voice. War Chief Braktor stepped onto the bridge, flanked by Corvin warriors. "Your ship is mine now, Supreme Commander. Surrender, and your crew will be treated with honor." Zethkar stared at the Corvin leader in shock. "You dare betray the hegemony?" "I dare choose freedom over oppression," Braktor replied. "The Corvin will no longer serve tyrants." Meanwhile, the space battle was turning in humanity's favor. Commander. Kate Sullivan led the Earth Defense Fleet in a coordinated attack with their new allies. The Zentari provided technical support that jammed hegemony communications, while Corvin warships proved that their warrior culture was more than just talk. "Kate, this is Morrison." Jake's voice came through the radio. "The command ship is neutralized. Braktor has control of their communications." "Copy that, Jake," Kate replied. "Time to see if our psychological warfare plan works." Across the battlefield, hegemony ships suddenly received broadcasts on their own communication frequencies. The message was simple but devastating. Their supreme commander had been captured, their command ship was lost, and species across the galaxy were rising in rebellion. The effect was immediate. Some hegemony ships tried to continue fighting, but others hesitated. A few began withdrawing from the battle entirely. The monolithic empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was cracking apart in real time. Captain Rick Hunter, commanding a mixed fleet of human and Zentari ships, pressed the advantage. All ships advance on the enemy center. Show them that their empire is finished. The battle continued for 6 more hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. When the last hegemony ship either surrendered or fled, the galaxy had changed. Forever. Dr. Melandra worked alongside Amy Parker in the Liberty's engineering section, analyzing the battle data. "Your species has done something remarkable," the Zentari scientist observed. "You have united the galaxy against oppression." Amy wiped grease from her hands and smiled tiredly. "We just showed everyone that the hegemony could be beaten. The unity was already there, waiting for someone to light the spark." In the captured command ship, Jake Morrison stood face-to-face with Supreme Commander Zethkar. The massive alien leader was bound, but unharmed, his 4 arms restrained by Corvin energy fields. "You have won this battle," Zethkar said bitterly. "But the hegemony is vast. Other fleets will come." "No," Jake replied calmly. "They won't. Look at your own communication logs. Half your member species have already declared independence. The other half are in open rebellion. Your empire is finished." Zethkar activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy-wide situation. Everywhere, former hegemony territories were declaring freedom. Trade routes were being reopened by Zentari merchants. Corvin fleets were protecting weaker species from hegemony loyalists. "This is chaos," Zethkar protested. "Without the hegemony's guidance, the galaxy will tear itself apart." "Maybe," Jake admitted. "Or maybe it will finally learn to govern itself. We're about to find out." Back on Earth, President Helen Wade addressed the planet via global broadcast. "Citizens of Earth, the battle is over. The hegemony fleet has been defeated, not just by human courage, but by an alliance of free species who chose cooperation over domination." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "This war began with a terrible misunderstanding, but it has ended with a new understanding. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us if we choose to share it in peace." Admiral Clark joined the president on the broadcast. "The immediate threat is over, but our work is just beginning. We're establishing a new galactic council with representatives from every free species. Earth will play a role, but we won't seek to dominate as the hegemony did." Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. On water worlds, the Zentari sang, songs of freedom in languages made of light. On desert planets, Corvin warriors celebrated with ritual combats that honored their new human allies. On countless other worlds, species that had been oppressed for centuries began planning their own futures, but the most important changes were happening in the hearts and minds of individuals. Dr. Melandra established the first interspecies Science Academy. War Chief Bractor created new military protocols based on honor rather than fear. Ambassador Carol Turner began the complex work of writing a galactic constitution that would protect the rights of all species. The war was over, but the real work of building a peaceful galaxy was just beginning. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching ships from dozens of different species working together to repair the damage from the battle. "Lisa, what's our next mission?" he asked. Dr. Grant looked up from her science station, where she was coordinating with alien scientists on new exploration projects. "The Zentari have detected energy signatures from outside our galaxy, Captain. They think there might be other civilizations out there." Jake smiled. The galaxy was finally free, but the universe was vast and full of mysteries still waiting to be discovered. Plot a course for the Galactic Rim, Lisa. Let's go see what's out there. As the Liberty and her escort of human and alien ships headed for the edge of known space, the galaxy they left behind was changing rapidly. The age of empire was over. The age of cooperation was just beginning. But first, there was one more battle to fight. The battle to create lasting peace from the chaos of war. And that battle would test everything humanity and their allies had learned about working together. When they emerged in the Andromeda Galaxy, they found wonders beyond imagination. Civilizations that existed as pure energy. Beings that communicated through manipulated gravity. Technologies based on principles that no one in the Milky Way had ever conceived. But they also found the same challenges that had plagued their own galaxy. Fear, misunderstanding, and the tendency for powerful groups to dominate weaker ones. The skills they had learned in building the Galactic Council would be needed here as well. As the Liberty approached the first inhabited system in Andromeda, Jake opened a communication channel to address his mixed crew. Everyone, we're about to make first contact with a completely new form of life. Remember what we've learned. Approach with curiosity, not suspicion. Communicate with patience, not haste. And above all, remember that our greatest strength lies not in our individual abilities, but in our willingness to work together. The response came in dozens of languages and communication methods, but the meaning was universal. They were ready. Jake smiled as he looked out at the strange new stars of Andromeda. The galaxy they had left behind was finally at peace, governed by cooperation rather than conquest. And now they were bringing those same principles to an entirely new realm of existence. The war that had started with one human ship appearing in alien space had ended with humanity helping to reshape galactic civilization itself. But the real victory wasn't military or political. The real victory was the discovery that understanding and cooperation were more powerful than any weapon, and that the universe was vast enough for everyone to find their place among the stars. As the Liberty began transmitting peaceful greetings toward the alien ships approaching from Andromeda's Cappy, 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the Great Assembly Hall of the new Galactic Council Station. Representatives from over 200 species filled the circular chamber, their diverse forms creating a tapestry of life that would have been impossible under hegemony rule. Today was the day they would vote on the final articles of galactic freedom, the constitution that would govern relationships between species for generations to come. Jake watched from the observer's gallery as Ambassador Carol Turner took her place at the human delegation's table. "The chair recognizes the delegate from Earth," announced First Light, the Zentari representative who had been elected as the council's first speaker. Carol stood and activated the translation system that now allowed perfect communication between hundreds of different languages. "Fellow beings of the galaxy, 6 months ago we were enemies. Today we gather as friends and equals. The document before us represents more than laws and procedures. It represents our shared commitment to never again let fear and misunderstanding lead us to war." Across the chamber, War Chief Bractor rose from his seat. The massive Corvan warrior had become an unexpected voice for peace in the council debates. "The human delegate speaks truth. The Corvan have learned that true strength comes not from conquering others, but from protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Dr. Melandra activated her species' light-based communication system. filling part of the chamber with gentle blue patterns. The Zentari agree. Scientific advancement and trade flourish only in times of peace. This council offers hope for a future where knowledge is shared freely among all species. But not everyone in the chamber was convinced. A reptilian delegate from the former hegemony core worlds hissed through his translator. Easy words from the victors. What guarantees do we have that this galactic council will not become another empire ruled by humans and their allies? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jake held his breath, knowing this was the moment that would determine whether their new alliance would hold together or fragment into a dozen smaller conflicts. President Helen Wade, attending the session via holographic projection from Earth, addressed the concern directly. Delegate Sithara, your fears are understood and valid. That is why Article 7 of our proposed Constitution specifically limits any single species to no more than 10% representation in the Council, regardless of military power or technological advancement. Carol took over the explanation. Furthermore, the Council's powers are strictly defined. We can mediate disputes and coordinate joint projects, but we cannot impose laws on individual species or interfere in their internal affairs. Each world remains sovereign within its own space. A new voice joined the debate. It was Supreme Commander Zethkar, the former hegemony leader who had been tried for war crimes but granted clemency in exchange for his cooperation in the transition. The humans show wisdom beyond their years, he said slowly. The hegemony fell because it sought to control rather than coordinate. These articles prevent that mistake from being repeated. The debate continued for hours. Each article of the Constitution was examined, questioned, and refined by representatives who had lived under tyranny and refused to accept anything that might lead them back to it. When the final vote was called, the result was unanimous, 847. Species voting to accept the Articles of Galactic Freedom. Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders that he hadn't realized he was carrying. The war was truly over now, not just militarily, but politically and spiritually. The galaxy had chosen cooperation over conquest. After the ceremony, Jake made his way to the station's observation deck, where he found Dr. Lisa Grant studying star charts with Dr. Melandra. The two scientists had become close friends, revolutionizing fields from physics to medicine through their collaboration. "Planning your next expedition?" Jake asked. Lisa looked up with excitement in her eyes. "Jake, you won't believe what we've discovered. The energy signatures from outside our galaxy aren't just random radiation. They're artificial. There are other galaxies out there with intelligent life." Dr. Melandra's translation device conveyed enthusiasm as well. "Captain Morrison, the possibilities are infinite. New forms of life, new sciences, new approaches to existence itself. The Zentari trading fleet is already requesting permission to join your exploration mission." Jake smiled. The war had started because of a misunderstanding during first contact. Now they were preparing to make contact with entirely new forms of life, but this time they would do it right. "What about the Liberty? Is she ready for intergalactic travel?" Amy Parker's voice came from behind them. The chief engineer had been so quiet that none of them had noticed her approach. "She's more than ready, Captain. The new hybrid drive systems can take us further than any ship has ever traveled. We've got Zentari navigation computers, Corvin shield generators, and even some modified hegemony power cores. All working together," Jake observed. "All working better together," Amy corrected. "Turns out that combining different technological approaches creates solutions none of us could have found alone." This had become the defining characteristic of the new galaxy. Human adaptability combined with Zentari science and Corvan engineering was producing innovations that amazed everyone involved. Trade routes were more efficient, communication was faster, and exploration was reaching deeper into space than ever before. Commander Kate Sullivan joined the group, having finished her duties organizing the new Galactic Defense Force. "The Council has approved our mission to the Andromeda Galaxy," she announced. "We leave in 2 weeks with a mixed crew of volunteers from 30 different species." Jake looked around at his friends and colleagues representing 3 different species that had been at war just months earlier. "Any second thoughts about heading into the complete unknown?" War Chief Bractor appeared in the doorway, ducking his massive frame under the entrance. "Captain Morrison, the Corvan have a saying. The horizon calls to warriors and explorers alike. We go where honor demands, whether that is into battle or into the vast unknown." The exploration fleet that departed 2 weeks later was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The USS Liberty led a formation of 50 ships representing 40 different species, each contributing their unique strengths to the mission. The vessel itself had been transformed, with sections rebuilt using alien technologies and a crew compartment expanded to accommodate beings that breathed different atmospheres and existed at different temperatures. Jake stood on the bridge as they approached the edge of the galaxy, looking out at the vast darkness between spiral arms. Beside him, Dr. Grant worked with her alien colleagues to calibrate sensors that could detect life across the void between galaxies. "Are you ready for this, Captain?" asked Pete Davis, now the fleet's chief communications officer. Jake thought about the question seriously. Ready to encounter alien life forms so different that they couldn't even imagine them? Ready to risk everything on the hope that other galaxies might welcome peaceful contact? Ready to represent not just humanity but an entire galactic civilization? "Pete, 6 months ago I was ready to die fighting aliens I didn't understand," Jake replied. "Today I'm ready to live working with aliens who have become friends. I think that's the best preparation anyone could have for what's waiting out there." Amy activated the new hybrid drive system, and space twisted around the fleet in patterns that combined principles from a dozen different species. The Liberty and her escorts slipped between dimensions, crossing the void between galaxies in a matter of hours rather than the centuries it would have taken using purely human technology.